And a judge appointed by President Obama ordering the Trump administration to help more than 100 migrants deported to a mega prison in El Salvador return to the United States and even pay their airfare. Jonathan Turley is here. I want to pull this quote here and read to you that Boasberg said, plaintiffs also request that such boarding letters include government payment of the cost of the air travel. The court deems that a reasonable request. The situation would never have arisen had the government simply afforded plaintiffs their constitutional rights before initially deporting them. The Homeland Security spokesperson said they were removed under the proper legal authorities. The case is no longer about the facts or law, but about Boasberg's crusade to stop Trump. He has been shut down by appellate courts again and again on this case. Yes, but how do you see this? Because it seems reasonable to me that if the government were to ultimately lose this case, yes, of course, then they have to pay the bill.
Right, Dana, and I think that it's true that Judge Boasberg has been reversed by Court of Appeals courts, but the Supreme Court has also said that these individuals do have certain due process rights that have to be respected before deportation. The irony is, of course, the Democrats are moving to shut down the government, so I'm not too sure how the reimbursement's going to work when the government itself is shut down, but they may have to hope that the Democrats don't succeed. But there's layers of irony here, because you're not only going to have the U.S. government paying to bring back someone who is here illegally, but they're likely to hold that person because they believe these people are terrorists once they arrive. And yes, they're entitled to due process, but there's really not much question what will happen for most of these people. They are not supposed to be here, and they can be removed. But the problem here really shows this lack of effort by Congress or success to streamline the system. These are individuals that can really game the system and have hearing after hearing and extending their time in the United States. And that's because Congress has yet to really streamline that system to give officials the ability to move people out more expeditiously.
So assuming then the government would appeal this, so these individuals would not be coming back anytime soon?
I don't think so, but also I'm not too sure El Salvador is going to want to release them. This is something that involves foreign relations. It involves a lot of different layers that are not entirely in the control of the U.S. government. So it's not clear by any means how fast this will occur or how many it will involve.
Okay, let's turn to the tariffs issue. Ever since January, we've been carrying around our folders ready for the Supreme Court to announce their decision about tariffs. It hasn't happened. Justice Jackson gave us a little bit of a clue why. Here she was yesterday.
Why is it taking so long to reach a decision on tariffs?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the
tariff decision, yeah.
Well, you know, there are lots of nuanced legal issues that the court has to thoroughly consider. We actually deliberate over a period of time where each of the justices decides how they feel about the issues and rights, and it takes a while. The court is going through its process of deliberation, and, you know, the American people expect for us to be thorough.
National Review wrote this, that Jackson's semi-non-answer looks to me like further confirmation that the people equating the deliberate pace of this decision with good news for Trump are grasping at straws. But, Jonathan, even if it is a complicated decision, aside from what would happen if they rule one way or the other, don't they just need to rule on what is the constitutionality? Why is that so complicated?
Well, Dana, this is actually the court moving in an expeditious fashion. So, you know, many people view this as a particularly glacial pace given the importance to the country. But I have to say that I always believed that the government was at a disadvantage in this one, that the odds are against them. But the Solicitor General, I thought, did an amazing job in arguing this in front of the Supreme Court. And I think it did surprise some of these justices. So we're looking at a potentially fractured court. And I wouldn't guarantee how this will cycle out. But keep in mind, Dana, even if they lose on this tariff, the Supreme Court could say this is prospective only. So it doesn't require returning money. But also the Trump administration has a number of other avenues to continue the tariffs. So it's not going to change overnight, even if they lose this decision.
Okay. Jonathan Turley, thank you so much. Enjoy watching the Olympics.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.